Hi everyone, Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week live on Facebook. You know, as a speaker, I've been honored throughout the years to be able to speak to a really diverse group of audiences, you know, ranging all the way from grade school kids all the way to corporate leaders. And I think the one that inspires me the most and the group that I enjoy speaking to the most are teenagers and high schoolers. Now, some of that, those audiences might put the fear in many people, and they do in me as well, because if I'm not on the top of my game, speaking to that group within the first few minutes, if I haven't connected with them, I'm absolutely done. But on the other side of the coin, if I do connect with them, I get the impact and the opportunity to impact leaders in the future. And what's interesting is with these groups, they're also very diverse. I've spoken to really high achieving kids that are going to be going off to college, and I've also spoken to kids that have really made some challenging choices in their life, and now they find themselves in situations that probably aren't the best, or they wouldn't choose if they had. And it reminded me of a couple of years ago. I was asked to be the keynote speaker for a high school graduation for a local correctional facility here in Denver. I mean, this was a place when I went in to had 30-foot walls and barbed wire fences over the top, and it was pretty daunting as you walked into that facility. And these young men had obviously made some bad choices, and even though they were graduating from high school, most of them were going to be staying beyond this graduation ceremony because they still had time to serve. And one of the things as I was speaking with them and the faculty members is I found that one of the things that they were most concerned about was going back into their environments after they left the facility. You know, the same family, friends, and situations and communities that had kind of supported them down a bad line of life. And now they were going to have to step out on their own and hopefully transcend that. And so one of the key pieces of the messages that I had from that day is that they were not their past, that their future is really determined by what they decide to be today and the steps they decide today that's going to impact their future in a positive way. And what I talked to them about is something I call the 3 abilities of leadership. And that's something that I wanted to share with all of you today, because regardless of where we find ourselves, and particularly nowadays where we're in some challenging times, that these 3 abilities are basically universal for anyone. And that's what I want to share with you today. So these 3 abilities go as follows. Number 1, the number 1 ability of a leader is adaptability. Now, adaptability, you might think, might being able to coalesce with the situations and be flexible. And I think that's really important. That's an important trait of a leader, to be able to be flexible and on the move when situations change. But also what's really important is being able to adapt to situations by being true to who you want to be in that situation. What do you want to stand for? And even though things around you might be going a little bit crazy, or you might be getting pressure from other people, you're going to decide to stay strong into who you are being in that situation, who you've decided to show up being. So number 1 is adaptability. Number 2 is responsibility. Now, clearly, responsibility, particularly being responsible for the things and accountable for the things that we've committed to as leaders, is extremely important. But here's the other aspect of responsibility, is just change that letter around a little bit and think of it about our ability to respond. How are we responding to situations? You know, we may not be able to choose every situation we're in, but we can always choose how we respond to it. We may not have all the resources that we think should be available to us, but we can always be resourceful. So my question to you is, during these challenging times, how are you choosing to respond? And then the third ability is possibility. Is leaders really understand to stay in that state of possibility. If you've ever studied any one of our great leaders in the 20th century, you look at the Mandelas of the world and the kings of the world and all these great people that have led us, they were committed to a possibility. They were able to help people understand the vision that they were moving toward and also hold true to that vision themselves. It It reminds me of a story of Mother Teresa, and this is back in the Vietnam War. And during that time, there was a lot of protests against the war, and a group came to her at the height when the death tolls were the highest and said, "Would you please lead us in a march against the war?" And she flatly declined. And they couldn't believe it. And when they went back and asked her, they said, "Mother, why are you choosing not to support us?" She said, "If you have a march against the war, I cannot be there. But if you have a march for peace, I will lead you." See, she understood possibility. So during this time, what are the things that we can look at maybe differently? They're different than they were before, but where is the possibility that lies? Even if it's a small kernel that could then expand into something greater than we've ever had before. So there you have it, my friends. Those are the 3 abilities of leadership that I'd like you to ponder today and also think about this week. Where do you have an opportunity to be better in adapting to your situation? Where do you have an opportunity to show responsibility, to respond better? And also, how can you hold yourself and also those around you in the idea of possibility? So, there you have it, my friends. This has been Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching. As always, I appreciate you sharing, commenting about these blogs, and also send me ideas if you have some things you'd like me to speak about. And once again, always appreciate you supporting me, and we will see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.